Good morning, everybody. So why is self-awareness such an important skill? And why do we need to get it? And what are the four components of it? I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict and personality clashes. And today we're going to do a micro lesson on why self-awareness gets you paid more. So if you have been in my Enneagram Leadership Masterclass, or if you missed it, this is a tiny little piece of that masterclass I am bringing to you today, because I think if I can help this message get into us about why self-awareness is so important, we can create better teams, we can create better communities, better families, really a better world. And I know that sounds really lofty, but if all of us really do work and understand why self-awareness is the thing that makes a difference, I think we can do that work. So today, we're going to talk about what is self-awareness and what are the four components of it and why does it even matter? So if you've got guesses and you are here in the comments, let me know in the comments why you think self-awareness matters. Or if you've got questions about what is self-awareness, what is this thing? So I love using the term self-awareness because that helps us understand, okay, this is about self and I'm raising awareness. Another great term for it is metacognition. So metacognition is this idea that I can observe myself. So here are some of the things that are involved in metacognition. It's the ability to understand our internal world and examine it. So a little bit like, here's my internal world, and I can look as an observer on my internal world. And that includes our behaviors, our emotions. I'm going to come back to the meanings, the strengths, the thoughts, the values, our weaknesses. All of those things make up who we are as a whole person and our internal world. And metacognition is the observation of this internal life, this internal thought life that each of us has. We talk to ourselves all the time, and we create all kinds of meaning from this internal thought life. And metacognition is that work. It is the observation of what's going on inside of me. So I'm sure you're like, okay, I get that's metacognition. I understand that. But why? Why do you think self-awareness matters? It has so much influence. So just so you don't like, Jen, you're just making this up. I got some receipts. So here's some of the research about self-awareness. So Tasha Urich is an organizational psychologist, and her research team found that self-awareness is associated with higher job and relationship satisfaction, personal and social control, which means basically I can manage myself, and I can manage myself with others. It has a relationship to higher happiness, which, I mean, don't we all want to be a little bit happier? But here's the really big thing. It has a negative association, which means if you have this, you have less of this. So if you have greater self-awareness, you have less anxiety, less stress, and less depression. And that includes this time where all of us are just feeling a little crispy burnt. So the greater self-awareness you have, the greater ability you have to manage that type of difficulty. You have less stress, less depression, and less anxiety. Other research shows that people who are more self-aware are better workers, who get more promotions. And then another researcher found that self-aware leaders are more effective, have more committed and engaged teams, and run more profitable companies. That's why self-awareness gets you paid more, because it's these important skills that are the foundation of everything else. In case you didn't believe me, I got two more. Stanford said that the number one school or the number one skill for leaders to develop, not something you just walk in the door with, but a skill that you develop, is self-awareness. Number one. And last week, we talked about self-efficacy. So if you missed my live last week, we talked about the concept of self-efficacy, which is confidence. And because Forbes included self-efficacy in its list of power skills, along with stress management and emotional regulation. Are you seeing the circle here? The circle that self-awareness is how we get all of those things. It's how we get every single one. So, if here's a really important understanding about this. We can only address what we first acknowledge is there. If we can't observe our inner thought life, we can't do anything about it. So if we're unaware what's hidden from us, we add all kinds of meaning to it. We are designed to make meanings to fill gaps. That's how our brain works. It's like, oh, there's two pieces of information. I want them to be connected. I'm going to create a story to connect them. That's how we're wired. And so when someone cuts us off in traffic, we make up a story about them. Sometimes it's, why do you hate me? Sometimes it's, are you a crazy person? Or maybe they've had a hard day. I sometimes struggle with that compassion story, but that's that we create these stories to create meaning around input that we get all the time. And the problem is that sometimes that meaning isn't accurate. And if we can't observe our inner thought life, observe that meaning that we create, we're going to act on stories that aren't accurate. So just imagine for a moment what that's going to do to your leadership, what that does to your relationships if you act on stories that aren't accurate, because we can only address what we first acknowledge is there. That's why it's so important. In the Harvard Business Review, I'm going to read this quote because it's so good. In the Harvard Business Review on how leaders become more self-aware, Anthony K. John said the one quality that trumps them all, evident in virtually every great entrepreneur, manager, and leader, is the quality of self-awareness. Without self-awareness, you cannot understand your strengths and your weaknesses, your superpowers versus your kryptonite. That's why self-awareness matters. So hopefully I have laid the case for you about why it's so important. And now you're asking, well, how do I get self-awareness? What do I do? How do I grow in self-awareness? How do I develop this skill? I'm so glad you asked, because that's what we're going to do next. So this is called a jahari window. And if you've been around a little bit, you know that I love a jahari window. And we talk about what these components are. So if you notice in this top little corner over here, we've got what's known to self and what's known to others. And we call that open. If you've been around and you've only watched me for the last 7 minutes, you've discovered that I talk pretty fast and I talk with my hands. That's known to me and it's known to you. It's out in the open. And if it's distracting or if that is getting in the way of something, we both know it's there and we can do something about it. In fact, my speaker coach, I just went on a retreat this past weekend and we talked about some of the ways that I move that are distracting. But because I didn't know it, she gave me that feedback. So we're moving over here into blind spot. I had no idea. It was hidden from me, but it was known to other people. And so feedback and coaching get us from blind spot into open, where then we can change. We can do something about it. And coaching and feedback are a huge part of self-efficacy, like we talked about last week. So we're going to come back to the feedback. But if we go down the thing, down to hidden from others, but known to ourselves, that's a facade. And in facade, sometimes we feel misunderstood. Sometimes we feel like we don't know why people don't get it. And we don't know how to get out of facade. The way to get to open, where everybody can do something about it, is called self-disclosure. You let everybody know, hey, when I say this, here's what I'm trying to convey. You talk a little longer. You share a little bit more within boundaries. We talked in the masterclass a little bit what the 3 things were. So if you remember that and you're in the masterclass, the facade to get to open, you have to have some self-disclosure. And that helps us all cope with what's happening. And if everybody can practice self-disclosure, more things come into the open. We communicate more effectively, which ultimately means we have better products, we have more team, more healthy team dynamic, and an ability to do what we've all come together to do. That's why we get to open. So now if you notice, We've got a little circle or a little square down over here that is the unknown. So the unknown is a little bit of a scary place. We're like, if it's hidden from everybody else and it's hidden from others, how do we get there? That is the beauty of working with personality tools like the Enneagram. So, the Enneagram is a personality framework that helps us understand the deep unknowns, the deep motivations of why we think, act, feel the way we do. And that part of the work, it moves us out of the unknown. Because if it's unknown, I'm going to bring us back to, we can only address what we first acknowledge is there. So that's the great work of the Enneagram. The Enneagram is really hard to do on your own. It's definitely some self-reflection work, but it's helpful to have somebody who understands and can be a guide. And that's getting you out of the blind spot as well. Last week when we talked about self-efficacy, that power skill from Forbes, aka confidence, one of the components is coaching and feedback. So getting somebody to help you see what you can't see or understand what is unknown is a key piece of developing confidence and self-awareness. So when we talk about self-awareness and this huge idea, this little square here helps us see the four components and the importance of each one of helping us get to open that way. We want to get to open, and that's really key to understanding self-awareness. So I hope that this is helpful in understanding why self-awareness matters so very much in just our general lives, but particularly if you are wanting to advance in your leadership. And I am offering for the next 8 weeks a group coaching program called the Catalyst Leadership Lab. And in the lab, this is what we cover. We dig into using the Enneagram to help us see who we are in stress, who we are when we're growing. What does it look like in our leadership style, our communication style, our conflict resolution style? How do we relate to people? How do we make decisions? We dig into each one of those. I would love to invite you to apply to the Catalyst Leadership Lab. You can get there at jenwhitmer.com/catalyst, and it is a great group program. One of the things that I have noticed in talking with people, not just clients, but people, is everybody is kind of missing community. Community is challenging. It is hard to come by right now. And that is one of the things that we're really missing. And so, excuse me, that is one of the great things that the Leadership Lab offers. And so you can apply at jenwhitmer.com/catalyst. I would love to see you in there. Hold on, folks. If you ever questioned it was live. Okay, so, oh boy. I think we got it now. I would love for you to apply for the lab. But even if you don't, I really hope that you see the value of self-awareness in your life. I would love for you to let me know if there was anything new here for you today. You're like, oh, this light bulb came off for me. Because again, just like I said at the beginning, I want to help people solve conflict and personality clashes. And that starts with understanding ourselves. So don't forget the four components. What's known to you and known to others is open. What's known to you but hidden from others, that's facade. And you get out of that by self-disclosure. What is known to others but hidden from you is your blind spot. And we get out of that through feedback and coaching. And what is hidden from others and hidden from you is the unknown. And that's where tools like the Enneagram can help us. Let me know if you've got any questions. I would love for some of you to apply to the lab. It's going to be a small group. If you've got any questions, you can put them in the comments or just send me a DM. There's lots of information at jenwhitmer.com/catalyst. I am so excited to help you live confidently, powerfully, and peacefully. Wholehearted living is really amazing, and that's what I want to help you get. All right, everybody, have a great Thursday, and I will talk to you later. Bye, all.